Hello and welcome back. We're going to be reviewing one-step equation, something pretty simple, but something we need to take care of. So, an example of a one-step equation would be something like x plus 4 equals 5. Right? There's one step. We have to move this 4 to the other side. We're trying to solve for x on all of these equations. We're going to solve for the variable. And we're going to do the opposite operation. So in this case, there's a plus. We do the opposite. So the opposite of plus would be minus. The opposite of minus would be plus. The opposite of division would be multiplication. The opposite of multiplication would be division. And I'll go over in more specifics in a second, more examples. But for this one, since we see a plus, we know that the opposite is minus, so we're going to move this 4 to the other side, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. 4 minus 4 is 0, x comes down. This is 0, so we don't have to write a 0, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. So x equals 1. We could go back to our original problem and check our answer. So we could check by putting this 1 here where the x is, substituting 1 for x, and see if the equation is true. Does 1 plus 4 equals 5? And 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 equals 5. So let's do some more. So again, what I want you guys to make sure you understand is the opposites, right? Plus and minus, and multiplication and division. So the opposite, plus 4, right? X plus 4 equals 7. So the opposite of add would be subtract 4 from both sides. So we have x on this side, 4 minus 4 is 0, 7 minus 4 is 3. Same thing, we see the plus, so we're going to subtract to move it over to the other side. X equals negative 7. 3 minus 10 is negative 7. This is the same thing. 7 plus x equals 4. This number here doesn't have a negative sign in front of it, so we know it's positive. So to move this positive 7 over, we're going to subtract 7. So x, again, 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Same thing. There's no negative, so this is a positive. So the opposite of positive is negative. Subtract the opposite. So that's going to give us x equals 1. Again, we can go through here and check all of our answers. We could put 3 in for x and see if 3 plus 4 equals 7. And it does. We could put negative 7 in for x. Negative 7 plus 10 equals 3, and it does. This is just a review, so you don't really need to do that. We might do it when we start doing the multi-steps. So again, now he's getting into subtraction. The opposite of subtract is add. And the inverse is true, so minus 4, we're going to add 4. So x equals 18 plus 4 is 22. Same thing, add. X equals 12. So this one, unlike the other one, when there was no symbol, no sign in front of it, now we have a negative 4. So we know this is a negative number, and the opposite is going to be the add. So in order to move this over, we're going to add 4. So that's going to be x equals 8. We're unsure, we can put this in. So we're going to have negative 4 plus, instead of the 8, I'm going to put in my answer. Instead of the x, I'm going to put in my answer. And is negative 4 plus 8 equal 4? And it does. So we know we did it right. Same thing. This is negative. The opposite's positive. and we could check it if we wanted to. So now we're in a multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So in order to move this 4 to the other side, I'm going to have to divide. This is multiplication. I'm going to have to divide by 4. So x is going to equal 3/4. And I could put this back in. 4 times 3/4 equals 3. 4 times 3/4 would be 12/4 equals 3. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. Multiply the top number to get 12. So even though your x is over here, we're still looking at multiplication, right? When two numbers are together, that's multiplication. So we're still looking at multiplication. So in order to move this 2 to the other side of the equal mark, we have to divide it. So 3 equals x. We have a negative sign. We want to solve for x and not negative x. So when we move this 5 over, we got to take this negative with it. So we're going to divide by a -5 from both sides. Remember, when we do something to one side, we have to do it to the other side. So -5 divided by -5 is +1, which means we just have a positive x. And 5 divided by -5 is -1. The last one, multiplication, so I'm going to divide by 2. -10 divided by 2 is -5. And then this is 1, which just leaves us x. So now we're looking at division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. So in order to move this bottom number of this fraction to the other side, we have to multiply everything by 4. Both sides by 4. This will cancel and just leave us x, and this will be 24. Just like with the other one with the negative sign, this one has a negative, and we need to make sure this negative goes over to the other side and not with the x. So this is division. We're going to multiply by 3, but we're also going to multiply by that -3. By doing this, well, -1/3 times -3, these would be +1, which just means x. And this one will be -15. And our last one, this is division, and the opposite is multiplication. So we're going to multiply by the bottom number, which is 6. So that gives us -18 equals x. Good, so these are all one step. Should be review for everybody. But just the important part is understanding that these are opposites, plus and minus, and that division is the opposite of multiplication. So when you see one, I'm going to draw an eye because I like drawing eyes. When you see one, you do the other one, and vice versa. So if you see plus, you do subtract. If you see division, you do multiplication. And the opposite would be true. If you see subtraction, you do addition. If you see multiplication, you do division. And we can deal with the negative numbers as we see them, but this is super important. One-step equations, everything builds on this. And you need to know this to do multi-step. And honestly, if you can do 2- and 3-step equations, then you can do any sort of multi-step, because they're all basically build off of one another, and they build off of this. Alright, that'll be it for this lesson.